Here we are out back. Gonna hunt up some parts real quick before it gets completely dark. It's about 15 below zero at the moment. Wonderful weather we're having. That's Alaska for you. But anyways, almost time to come out and clean snow off again. Wade through the snow here, and we're gonna check Girl Wanted for that retainer on the back of the transmission yoke. Crawl under here. Of course, I can't see a thing. You'd think I'd get used to bringing a light with me, but I feel that it's on there, so come out here with a wrench and get that off. So we're good there. Borrow that, even though I didn't want to steal anything from this truck. That's not too major. So we'll get that thing off, and drive shafts I'm going to keep in here. The difference between the Chevys and the GMC 6xs, the GMC, the transfer case was closer, so the drive shaft to the front axle was shorter than these. And I have a 6x transfer case and front axle in the 42 that we're working on, so it's got to have the large U-joint size, and it has to be the length of these. And the 6x drive shaft that I have over there that I took out of the parts frame has both ends on it, but it's too short, so either I gotta lengthen that, or we'll dig in the pile over here and see what I can come up with. Here's the drive shaft. That's a Ford one. Let's see what else we got. Well, that has the flange like the 6x stuff has, so that could be useful. Probably not the right size though. So got that one. That's Ford, 2-wheel drive. Now back over here to the military pile. Get the 6x front drive shaft in here. See if I can't lose the U-joint caps. Oh, and one's already missing. Good job. But grab this one. And it looks like those are the same big style U-joints as this one over here. Yeah, here's the 6x one. And here's this random one that I have. And it looks like they're the same size, so this would at least give me a cap to replace that missing one. And the tubes seem to be the same size also, so might be able to make something work here. Inside here with the stove going, laid these out to warm them up and kind of look at them. Here's the military one out of the 6x frame that I parted out that had the airplane tires on it, and then there's the random one I had in the pile. So if you line the tubes up, let me switch this one around here. Now it looks like these yokes and U-joints are the same size. We'll have to check carefully, but just by eyeballing it, they look the same. So if you line those ends up and you come up here, this tube is a lot shorter than that tube, and where this spline begins is a lot longer than where this spline begins. So if the number of splines are the same, I could put this slip yoke onto this one, get rid of this carrier bearing, because that's from like a 2-piece setup from a long framed truck or something, and if I put this on here and then see what the measurement is from the transfer case to that front axle, that might be enough length. And if it's not, I could always cut this and then knock that out. They penetrate the tube maybe that far, and then cut the tube to whatever I need it at, and then just re-weld the spline back onto the tube. And if that spline is not the same as this spline, well, I could cut this one off and put it in this tube and go from there. But this one might give me enough length to make it work in there, because the one from the GMC is just too short to fit into the Chevys. From that yoke there up to that differential in the front. So that other one might give enough length. I'd have to measure it. So let me double check that and we'll see where we're at. Okay, measured under there, right to where the U-joint caps would sit into the yokes. It's about 54 inches. So if we measure just to this yoke here and go, now see, with that slip yoke on there, the end of it would be right there. And see the slip yoke, roughly 9. Well, the U-joint's sticking out a little bit. 8 3/4. So let's see, 8 3/4. Yeah. So I think with this slip yoke on here, that would be plenty. And if it's a little over length, I could shorten that. And we're the same size on that end, so don't have to worry about changing that any, because 4 1/4. Yeah, probably. It's hard to tell with that cap off, but 4 1/4 looks like it's right. So here, we could just borrow one here. Stick that on there. Huh. Might not with the frost on there, but I think it's there. I think we're the same. And then the yoke, well, just laying on the floor, I can tell they're the same. So I guess the next step is pull this yoke off and see if it'll fit this spline. Well, I persuaded that slip yoke off. And this is just crazy, because what are the chances that some random drive shaft that you have in your pile that you don't even know what it's from or anything about it, what are the chances that the yoke size, the U-joint size, the tube size, and the splines are the same as a drive shaft from a World War II truck? That's pretty crazy. But anyways, I persuaded that off, as you can see. And it goes right onto these splines. They're the same. Can't believe it. Got lucky here. Just need to cut that rubber off of that old carrier bearing thing. And we'll check this one up under the truck and see what it looks like. Already got a U-joint on that end. It's fine. So yeah, let's try it out. All right, if we climb under the truck here, got this drive shaft set into place, and we're good on that end, because as we know, that front axle and everything came out of that parts frame that had the airplane tires, so we're a good match there. Now this transfer case is the one that I got after the fact, because mine had that broken case up by the mounting bolts. And this transfer case is also out of a GMC, and a good way to tell is because it has that really short shaft with the flat flange with 4 bolts. And they have that short shaft because the GMCs, the 5-speed transmission on those is much larger than these 4 speeds, and they mounted their transfer case way up closer to the transmission, than on Chevy. That's why they're so far apart, and that's why the 6x front drive shaft wouldn't fit in here. It was too short. Anyways, so we got the large yoke and large U-joint size that would be correct for the 6x. So you automatically assume that it's going to be a perfect match right up to a 6x transfer case. Now, for some reason, the output on the front wheel drive and the output on the rear wheel drive off of this case, they have the small yoke size for some reason. And I held this up here, and that is way too big for this. So what I'm going to have to do is go out back with an impact, battery impact, take the nut off, and pull the yoke out of the other transfer case, the one that I had originally, because I needed to go get the U-bolts out of it anyway. So I'll just take that yoke out and put it on this one and change it out, so we got the big yoke on this transfer case and can use this size. So we're good there, got that figured out. And as for the length, we're perfectly good. And there's still some room to travel with the slip yoke, I think, so nothing will bind or cause any issue. But I did hold it up there. Not going to do it now because it's kind of tough to do one-handed, especially not bolted on that end. So yeah, we're good on length, and we got the yoke thing kind of figured out. So we're good here. So I think I got a good plan on that front drive shaft. Just swap out that yoke and it'll be good to go. I'm super surprised that it's not going to involve cutting 3 different drive shafts up and cobbling them all into one thing, Alaska style, all that. So it's nice when something's easy like that. So that's cool. The handbrake is in. I had to free it up so it'll move back and forth, and I had to heat up the linkage that was on it. It's not right for this transfer case. This is a later style, where this handbrake is from an earlier style without the drum on the back of the transfer case. But anyways, the brake is in. It moves back and forth good. So I just need to rig up a linkage or a cable to run back to here to operate that brake, and that'll be fine. Didn't put the PTO lever in yet because that'll just make it difficult to get the floor pan in. Probably the same with this brake, but I had to find 2 bolts and clean them all up, the rust off of them, and then make them work into the side of the transmission case there to hold that on. But that's easy enough to take off. So yeah, other than you know, me cleaning up in here and stuff like that, didn't get a whole lot done, but we are moving in the right direction with that drive shaft stuff and, you know, whatever little details that keep going on. All right, here we are out back. It's like -25 below zero today, so perfect weather for pulling parts. Camera time's gonna be kind of low. So anyways, there's the other transfer case. Let's get that yoke off to put on the other one. Got a little assortment of stuff here to do it, so hopefully I got enough. And then we'll go over to the Girl Wanted Chevy and pull that retainer off the back of its transmission yoke, and we'll be good. Back inside, out of the cold, brought another drive shaft in from the pile and some pipe here. We're going to get to that a little later. I'm sure you'll enjoy what I got dreamed up here. And some metal. Well, that's the same piece that I cut the front motor mount plate out of for that little tab on the transmission for the brace. And got the retainer for the transmission yoke out of the back of the Girl Wanted truck, so that can go there. And unfortunately, none of my sockets will fit the nut on the transfer case yoke. My 1/2 inch drive, sockets here only go up to, let's see, what is it? 1 3/8. So I think I need the next size up from that in this, because it's a thinner wall, because my 1-inch drive sockets that would probably be the right size, they're fatter and won't fit into the yoke far enough to get onto the nut. So I'll have to get some more of these or borrow one or something and get that yoke pulled off. But in the meantime, I'll get that yoke bolted down tight with this and get that little tab made for the brace. And then that front drive shaft would be right in the way of crawling under there and dealing with the short drive shaft from the transmission to the transfer case, which is what all that's going to be, hopefully. So let's work on that kind of stuff tonight and see if I can't get that drive shaft figured out. All right, got that little retainer thing started on there with some thread lock on the bolt, because why not? And if you're wondering how to keep this from turning on you when you rotate it, well, there's an easy fix. Just throw her into gear and it won't go anywhere. Tighten it up and you're good. Okay, underneath the truck here, got some light set up under here so you can see what's going on a little easier. Got that yoke tight. We're fine there. And in case you were wondering what the torque is on that, just till you can't turn it by hand anymore. Good there. So just gonna make a plan for making the drive shaft from here to here. And I think what I'm just gonna do is take this off of the transfer case. It's got the 4 bolts. I'll get my impact and zip those off and then take this out. And then I think everything I got on the floor is gonna work. So I'll kind of show you what I got planned and hopefully it'll all work out. So let me get that off. Okay, got that little drive shaft out and got it moving on the little mini slip yoke a little bit, so that won't be an issue later on. Now the next step, this other random drive shaft out of my pile, I'm going to knock this U-joint out of this, so we just have this slip yoke and U-joint. So let me get that done on the vise there. Okay, it took some effort there to get this old thing busted loose. Had to heat up around there and so on and so forth. Hammer the clips out. So here's the dilemma. This is the right width and everything, and same as this way. It's the same both ways on this style U-joint, and it works all right for how old it is. But even though the width is right, if well, these are the size caps that came out of it. They're the same as Ford, the ones that I run. So here's some extra ones I had that from taking old ones out. They're the same there, and I have a few that I could put back on here and probably, you know, get by with for a little while. But these caps are too small for the yoke on the back of the transmission. They'd be too sloppy in there. So if we go back to our original 6x drive shaft and take the cap from it, they are bigger, like so, and this size fits good into the yoke. But of course, that's the big style U-joint, same with that little short one, and I can't take this one apart and use it in any way. It's still the wide U-joint, can't do any good there. So what I'm gonna have to do is probably go to the junkyard, find a slip yoke like this that is this width but this cap size. So hopefully I can find something. Of course, the ears would be a little bit bigger to compensate for these larger caps, but hopefully there's something, because that's kind of what this truck would have had originally with the small style yoke, but it would still run those big caps like those. So yeah, hopefully I can find something. So I went through that whole ordeal with the drive shaft, trying to brainstorm up some ideas. But anyways, here's the other thing I got accomplished. I made that little tab there to put that brace on, and as you can see, it's rounded back there and won't rub. So that's all hooked up and tightened down, so we got that support now. So now it's just figure out that yoke, and then I can move further along on this. And then still got to get that other yoke from the other transfer case and put that on, but I need a socket that'll fit it. But we're almost there. Okay, another day, another plan in motion. Got some more drive shaft parts from the junkyard, and where we left off there, I had the right width with this slip yoke, but the cap size of the U-joint was wrong. And as I explained before, has to be these large caps. So I had one for an example off that 6x drive shaft. So I went to the junkyard, took this with me and that cap, and got a width matched up. And actually this is missing one of the clips right there, so I could take my example cap and see that it's the right size. So we're good to go here. I just need to slam this U-joint out of this part and leave it onto this slip yoke, and then I'll have that for one end, the transmission end. And then what I'm going to do is cut this right here, and then this will be for the transfer case end, and then put a piece of pipe in between. Either put a piece of pipe over this or inside of it and weld it, and then put a piece of pipe over this and weld it. It's going to be kind of crude and homemade, but like I've mentioned before, it's not going to go on the highway or anything, so at least it will move. There we go. Got a little warm, but at least it's off. Now just to weld a piece of pipe over that. And I did pull that out some, so the slip yoke is extended, so I'll have a little bit of room to play with, and it's not one way or the other. Okay, now to get this U-joint out of this yoke on this old drive shaft, put some WD-40 down in there, and then take a propane torch and heat up around here so you don't bust the clip off or anything, and it's a little bit easier to get out. Alright, got it out. Caps are good, just need some grease. I broke the grease fitting off, so just put a new one back in. Took it out with a easy out. Luckily it wasn't seized in there and just threaded right out. So good to go here. Put these caps back on, and then find a piece of pipe that is ideal for welding both ends to. And I think this one's too small or too big, one or the other. So figure it out. Okay, I finally got something figured out here. Messed around with some pipe, nothing really came close, so gave up on that idea. And I found another unknown drive shaft from my personal pile out back. So I cut the ends off, and I got this tube now. And if we stand it up, and we take this yoke for the transmission end, it fits into here. So we got a nice fit there, weld it around there, and then drill some holes here and plug weld it around also. And then on this end, for the transfer case end, with the flat flange style, I got that slip yoke moving back and forth better, and the splines and everything. So I pulled it out a little bit, and the only thing that really fits over this nub here, this is completely solid and really strong. It's took a while to cut it, but the only thing that fits over that really good is this. on our other end. As you can see, it's a nice fit over it. So what I'm gonna do is take this, cut this in half here, and then I'll have a nub to stick down in here, and then the other half of it will go over this, get welded around here, and then I'll go into the inside of it, weld it in there, and then attach it to the other end of this tube. So I think I'll start with this end after I get it cut, get this end welded in, and then figure out the measurement, and then, you know, figure out what I need for the travel back and forth on the slip yoke part, and then get that end put on, and we'll be good. Got the welder there plugged in, ready to go. Clean these up, drilled a couple holes in this for plug welding, and just do that, run around here and run them. This end will be good. And there we go. Welded all the way around and plug welded. So that end's good. Let's get this other end figured out. I'll begin by putting this onto here and then weld down in there. Got to hit it with some brake clean so it doesn't contaminate the weld. Got to shine this up with the wire wheel, and good to go. And then after that's ready, check my measurements, and then I've probably got to cut this tube off to be a little bit shorter. It's a little over length right now. And then stick that inside that end and weld her in. All right, got this other end done. Got that welded to the spline. I just pulled it out of here to make it a little bit easier. And it's scorching hot. But welded it a lot down in there just for a good measure. And then goes in there and then into that tube. So what I'll do now is stick this back together and then put a couple bolts on the transfer case to hold this, and then lay this or hold this tube up under there, just like right beside it, and mark off where I gotta cut it, and should be good. Okay, just about got it ready to weld here. Cut the tube, good to go there. Just need to get this lined up a little bit. It's not a perfect fit, so get it even on both sides. Put something under here. But something on drive shafts you have to do is make sure you index your ears on the yokes, because if they're off from each other, they want to bind and twist for some reason. Just, I don't know, that's what happens with them. So what I've done in the past is lay it flat on the concrete floor and then just stand them up vertical, because they're flat here. So you can index your ears like that, and then this is on the spline, so I know where to weld it. That way this won't be off. So let me get this lined up in the pipe here, and I'll weld it up. There we go. Got it all welded all the way around. I made a bead all the way around on the tube, and then where the bead was on the spline part, I went in between both of them, so it's should be good. And then got it plug welded on both sides like so. So I think that's gonna work. Nothing wrong with that. So get some U-bolts for the other end there and bolt it up under the truck. Well, how about that? Love it when a plan comes together and works. The length ended up being good. Got plenty of penetration into that yoke there with the splines for the slip yoke, so good there. And then it'll pull back far enough to drop it down if you have to take it out. So she's all tight and greased everything up. So that one's all set. Still need to pull that yoke off the other transfer case for the front one. But I borrowed a couple sockets from a friend, so hopefully I'll have the right ones to do that now. So I think now that that brace and drive shaft is in, I'll start putting the floor pan stuff in and see what I can figure out for screws to hold it down, and then get the top piece in as well, because you need that top piece up there to hold the gas pedal linkage. So yeah, turned out good on the drive shaft, so I'll start messing with this floor pan. There she is. Got it held down with a couple screws on each side, same with that piece. And there's the guide for the gas pedal. And no real interferences with anything. Everything lined up. The PTO lever that I got with this transmission is designed differently for this floor cutout. So I'm not going to cut out the floor just to put that in. So not like I'm going to be using that anyway. But yeah, she's got a floor, no big open void there now, and looking better and better as we go. Starting to look more like something now. I got that yoke changed out on the transfer case. That's tightened down and cotter pinned. And that allowed me to get that other end of the drive shaft on. So we got a front now. The truck will move now as soon as it's fired up and running. So yeah, this is great. Plenty of room on that spline there for that yoke to travel back and forth, so nothing won't really bind up. Not that the front end has much travel on the suspension anyway, but oh well, don't have to worry about it at least. But she's looking great. All this stuff in there that was all missing when I got it. That short drive shaft looks good in there, and now this front one looks good in there. So yeah, making tons of progress here. So there we go. Now that that's all done underneath, we'll have a complete moving drivetrain as soon as the motor's up and going with the fuel system and everything. So I guess until I can make more progress on the finishing details and stuff like that, it's going to be it for now. But she's going really good. Got the floor and everything in and stuff like that. So more and more looking like a truck and not just a stripped out piece of junk. So until the next time, I'll see you later.